All right. Here we start to talk about gesture. And since you know what are the qualities of line, now it's much easier to jump into gesture drawing directly. So what I was trying to say before was when you have your blank page like this, try to imagine that it has all these divisions, like a pilot. You see all the dots and stuff. It helps you to navigate better on paper, okay? I don't want you to draw this vertical and horizontal lines, but have it in your mind as a concept. When I have the figure in front of me, I try to place that like this on this paper. Look. And already I'm doing my gesture drawing. Please notice that we have all these extremities, these dots, for example, in the shoulder. As I told you before, like constellations. And the only thing you have to do when you're learning to see the human body is exactly this. Try to place the shapes that you see in the right point, and in this way you're gonna keep the proportions, and you're gonna create really nice harmony because everything is working together, and there's a relationship, a reciprocal relationship between all these points and dots. Everything that occupies here the space is the positive space. Okay, we call it the positive. Everything that's in the surrounding is our negative space. You need both of them in order to create a thorough and accomplished figure drawing. Okay, so this is the first one, how to see the body, human body. And we start with abstracting the space into this mathematical, geometrical, two-dimensional space, where it makes it much easier to control and manage, all these shapes, because you have rectangles, you have squares, you have the circle, oval shapes, etc. Because when you have the line as the visual element, using that, then you can create all the shapes you want. You can create the circle, and these three, circle, square, and triangle, are our three fundamental geometrical shapes in a 2D space. When you want to make things three-dimensional, which is only an illusion, of the depth, and you have to learn all the tricks with which you can create the illusion. For example, what I told you in the previous video was when a form is quite dark, and then when you use overlap, okay, when you overlap it with other forms like this darker one seems to be closer. And everything that's tinier, smaller, and lighter appears to be farther from us. And this is a trick to create illusion. Okay? This is one of them. And through these, when you put together all these tricks, you can create a three-dimensional illusion of a three-dimensional space using perspective. Prospectiva. This means to look. Through, it means through, looking through. And this is a science that came from the understanding of optics, how human brain and human eyes perceive the outer world. Okay, their surroundings, light, forms. So that's another crucial element with which we can create three-dimensional spaces. But for now, we're gonna stay here on gesture. So the first thing, let me change the paper. So the first thing that we need to focus on is the movement and gesture. Let me write down. All right. So if the figure is standing, contributing the weight only on one leg, which creates the famous contrapposto. Greek and Roman, way of standing in the statues, you see that often, where you have the shoulders in one direction, pelvis in another, exactly the opposite. So you have this, and then there's the leg, the weight-bearing leg, and the other leg is basically just supporting that, but there's this balance line, horizontal, and this vertical line where passes exactly where you have the head, the neck. There we go. Please notice what type of line I'm using here. As I told you before, what Leon Battista Alberti suggests is these three way of connecting dots. I'm mixing up all three together. So you have then the legs. Look how simple is this diagram. But still it works. It gives you the idea of the human body and the proportions, because there's a relationship between all of them. Then at the end I add arms. And hands. with no detail. Okay, let's recap the process. First, you start with understanding the balance line, the position of the figure in this space. So the borders are important. Okay, you have to create a kind of limit on paper for yourself, like this. And then in that space you created, you can control all the shapes and forms you want. Okay? Look at this X here that we call pondus, the weight, the way that we have the contribution of the weight in the human body. And this flow is absolutely crucial in the human body. You have to create that. Okay, you have to build that up. When you have put all these simple elements, then you can start adding whatever you want. More detail, you can add muscles. Okay, but here we are only talking about gesture, movement. Okay. The process here was thinking about the space, the 2D space. Then gradually you make it a three-dimensional space by using overlaps and darkness and the quality of line. Then you look at three solid forms on figure, which are head, torso, the rib cage specifically, and pelvis. All of these are connected together through the spine, which is back there. You cannot see that, but you have to have a great understanding of the way it moves. And it has this, if I wanted to draw the human body in the side view, it has this movement. Here's the neck, cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. And then you can add the legs. But this is the flow, okay? The human body. And it's not like a stick of wood. What it's like water, Think about the waves. That's exactly the way our body works and moves. And here you have the spine, and then you have look at the direction. The rib cage and head. And pelvis, right here. Now these three are connected through this line. And in front of it you have a really simple curve like this. Then, look at my fingers here, the way I moved them. And the legs are connected. They are kind of repeating the same type of directions here. And here you have the shoulder. That comes down like this. I'm not gonna draw that because I don't want to cover pelvis, but this is what you have. All right. Now this is really important to grasp and understand in gesture drawing. the movement of the spine. So after drawing all this, you add legs, upper leg, lower leg, and at the end arms. This is a really great approach to do quick sketches, even in from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. This works perfectly. Now I do some examples, some samples for you to see how this works. All right, I just draw from my imagination. I don't know, imagine you have a head here. You see the flow of my hand. I'm just looking at my painting over there. So this is the way I construct the human body. Head, torso, legs, and at the end I add arms to it. There you go. Without drawing the finger, you know, the feet and the details. So we avoid any detail. Then you can have other dynamic movements like this, where you have a really extreme movement in the muscles. Okay. Let me draw a figure from the back, but simpler. Here's the spine, you see. If you learn the proportions here, that would help you a lot to control, you know, the distances. Don't make the spine and torso too long or too short. There we go. You can add scapula. So each line, the direction of the lines are important, not what they represent. So don't worry about it. If you're not drawing the hand here, still it works as a gesture drawing, because you should be clear about what's the goal of your, you know, practice here, or maybe a seated figure has the same conformation. You know, like this. I just add the legs, and at the end, the arms. You see? When you learn how to connect all these forms together, and this is going to be the next part in this the basic course, you have to learn how to connect them. You know, you have all these forms: head, ribcage, pelvis, legs, arms. It's important to create harmony through a beautifully connected composition here. Okay, so I think this is it for now. Again, let me know if you have any question, if there's anything that's not clear. I will do more demonstrations also in Photoshop, so don't worry about it. I hope you enjoyed so far the process. Take care. We'll see you soon. Thank you.